Warm welcome to one and all. So in today's session, we will be seeing about the lecture 2, Facets of Data. So what are the different aspects of data? The data could be a structured one or it could be a unstructured data. It could be a natural language based data or a machine generated data, a graph based data, or the data could be in the form of audio, video or images, or it could be a streaming data. First, let us move on to the structured data. So, structured data is one which is arranged in a specific row and column format. It helps the application to retrieve and process the data easily. Example, if you could see, the database management system is used for storing such structured data. So in day-to-day application, if you see the normal Excel data, so what we use in day-to-day is an example of structured data. So when we say word called structured, it is nothing but it is an organized one. It is organized and the data is identifiable and retrievable. So Excel data is a usual example of structured data. Now we will move on to your unstructured data. When you say it as unstructured, the data does not follow a specific format. So rows and columns cannot be used for your unstructured data. Therefore, if you could see, it is difficult to retrieve any required information. So if you could just consider the example, the general example would be an email. In email, so the data retrieval is quite difficult for the computers. If you could see the characteristics of unstructured data, here there will be no structural restrictions or binding for the data. The data could be of any type and the unstructured data does not follow any structural rules, neither any predefined formats, nor it has any structural binding. So the data is usually unpredictable in nature. Now we'll move on to your natural language processed data. So when you say it as a natural language, it is a special type of unstructured data. So it is mainly for this we require a knowledge on data science techniques as well as the linguistics. So this natural language processing, if you are going to check, it enables the machines first to recognize the characters and then words and then sentences, as we how teach a child to learn a language. So once it has learned to recognize the characters, words and sentences, then we apply the meaning and understanding to that information. So if you could see, the natural language processing has many processes like in entity recognition, or it could be topic recognition or summarization or text completion or sentimental analysis. Here if you could see, this natural language processing, it helps the machines to understand the human language, but it has to undergo these three main processes. Initially, it should learn the speech recognition. Then it should understand in what language it has been told with. Then the system must be capable of converting into the machine translational language. If you could see, so this natural language processing is an iterative process, so which is comprised of several layers of text analysis. Now we will move on to the machine generated data. So this machine generated data is automatically which is created by the computer without any human intervention. So this means that the data what we are entering manually at the end user side is not recognized to be machine generated. So if you could see a machine data, it is nothing but it will have a definite record of all the activity. Let us take the example, okay, behavior of all the consumers or users or transactions, or it could be applications or the server logs, okay, or the factory machinery data and so on. So the main examples, if you see the machine generated data, are the web server logs, call detail records, sensor data, or it could be a telemeter data. So this is just an example of a machine generated data for you to understand. Now we will move on to the next type of data, that is called as a graph based data. From the name itself, it is evident that the data can be shown on a graph. So this graph is generally based on the mathematical graph theory. So what is graph theory? It is nothing but a graph is a mathematical structure. So that is model to show the relationship or the interaction between the objects. Okay, so thus if you could see in a graph, the data will focus the relationship between the objects. If you just take the example, so it will be, you can just take an example of a Facebook or a LinkedIn, any social network. So we will be connected to certain number of people, and each entity in that would be connected to a different set of people. So thus the graph based data is a natural way to represent the social networks, where this graph based structure will have the nodes and edges, and so it will calculate the specific matrix such as what is the influence of a person or a shortest path between the two people. So this is just an example. If you could see, Jack is connected to many people like Elizabeth, Juicy or Liam or Florin and etc., whereas Florin is connected to another bunch of people. Next, we move on to the next type of data, that is either it could be audio, video or image based data. So usually if you consider these types of data, so they pose a challenge to the scientist. Why? Because the data scientist, because the data are, it is trivial for the humans. We could understand it easily, but when it moves recognition of the objects in the pictures, so it poses specific challenge to the data scientist. So we have to use some unique data science technique, so to recover the details from this. So example, if you could see, the Major League Baseball Advanced Media, that is MLBAM, so they usually announced in 2014 that they will increase the video capturing of approximately 7 TB per game for the purpose of the live game analytics. So which was quite interesting. And also some other examples like high-speed cameras at the stadiums, if you see, it will capture the ball and the athlete movements to calculate in real time. Okay, so what is the time that is taken by them would be quite less. So the path taken by the defender relative to the, like you can take the example, okay, the path which is taken by a defender relative to the two baselines. So many functions peeping to arrive at the solution. Now we will move on to the last type of data, that is your live streaming data. So what is the data you see on stock market prediction, or what you see in the Twitter or the streaming video? It could be anything. So if you could see, streaming videos are nothing but they are the data that are continuously, which is generated by thousands. It generates actually, if you could see, thousands data at a time. So and also it records simultaneously in the order of small kilobytes. So if you could see, the streaming data will have a lot of log files that is generated by the customers using either their mobile or web application. So usually if you could see the streaming data, so the main streaming data would be the e-commerce purchases or the game player activity or the data from the social networks, or it could be from the financial trading flows or the real-time instantaneous data what you get from the geospatial satellites, or from remote sensing, or from telemeter data from the power grid, or from any instrumentation data from the data centers. So the usual data, so what we see in our day-to-day life is a real-time Twitter feed, or it could be a stock market data to say that how the data flows continuously over time, and how is the application for a data scientist to intervene and produce the meaningful insights. So thus we have seen the various facets of data in today's class. So in the next class we'll be seeing about an introduction to NumPy. Thank you.